I trust your day has gone well so far.
Well, yeah, my brother didn't look anywhere worse, so that's good.
Well, there's always room for improvement, you know, but we give thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I've always wanted to have a conversation with you. And I find that there are a number of points that our lives, you know, overlap. So that's why today we're talking with Nadine Molloy. Now, in the 1960s, I spent a lot of time in Buff Bay.
Oh.
And the first time I heard you introduce, and I heard Buff Bay. So is that where you start your teaching career?
No. I'm from Portland. I'm not from Buff Bay either. I am from a little district called Spring Hill, Portland, that I love to call God's country.
Mm-hmm.
I was born at the Buff Bay Public General Hospital, but I am from Spring Hill. I started my teaching career at Bishop Gibson High School in Mandeville quite by accident. I went down to be a temporary teacher, and I am here almost 28 years later.
Ooh, I see. Well, Buff Bay Hospital is the common ground because my aunt was the sister and then the matron at the Buff Bay Hospital in the 60s.
You remember her name?
Shaw, Esther Shaw.
No, I don't know that name. I've heard the name King Smith.
No, that was, I guess she's after your time then. And then she moved to Anata Bay and then finally to Port Antonio before she retired. So wherever she was working, I spent my summer there.
Oh, okay.
So that stretch, so that the Junction is one of my favorite roads, you know? A lot of people are afraid of Junction Road, but for me, it's one of my favorite. You just work with it.
You just drive.
Yeah, you know when you can pass, and you know when you can't pass.
Exactly.
So you work with it. Now, education, is that what you've always wanted to do?
No, I went the gamut of wanting to be a flight attendant because it seemed glamorous.
Glamorous, yes.
Of course, you know, I think all of us are children, we wanted to teach because we're always teaching the trees and the brooms and everything and around the back or under the cellar or something like that. Yes. But the one that I think I most seriously looked at was to become a lawyer.
Yes.
And when I was finished, I had 2 A-levels. So that wouldn't take me into law.
Yes.
I finished my degree. When I finished my degree, I said I would apply the following year. And I started teaching. A few years down the road, I actually left Mandeville to go apply to do law with a friend of mine, Nadine White, who is now in BVI as a lawyer.
Yes.
At university. I was teaching English literature and some language, and she was teaching chemistry. On the way to the university, I met a friend of mine. We had worked together at Library Service, Jamaica Library Service, in the early days before we went to university. And she said to me, "Why do you want to go be a lawyer? There are so many lawyers around. Why don't you go and do a library master's? The library master's is literally free. It's only $18,000 for the year." Yes. So by the time I got to UA, I applied for law for a library instead of law. And here I am, a teacher librarian. Okay.
Whenever I hear about you have some philosophical views on education, it's as if you have given some serious thought above and beyond just rudimentary exposure. What accounts for that?
Well, I am an avid reader. So I've started reading around education more than anything else. I hardly do anything for leisure anymore. In addition to that, I started working at Jamaica Library Service, and that was a watershed period in my life because I was introduced to managing and accessing information. I didn't work in a library. I worked in the school's library section, so we were responsible for disseminating materials to all the school libraries across Jamaica. So I spent time going into school libraries for 1.5 years and just interfacing with all of what happened, what went into making school libraries what they were. And I also understood how much more the people at the Jamaica Library Service wanted to do and were not able to do. So I moved to university stayed with my first love, which was English language, English literature rather. Got a degree in English, started teaching temporarily. The principal, Mrs. Bridget Gordon at Bishop Gibson High School at the time, she said to me, Nadine, you're not going anywhere. You are a born teacher. And remember, at that time, I didn't have teacher training. So I laughed. But of course, sometimes with a general degree, it can be a little bit difficult to get a job.
Yes.
Because, I'm not specialized in anything except English literature. So I continued teaching there. She made it so that I could continue teaching there. And there was somebody who was leaving at the end of the school year, and I moved into that slot. Still not thinking that I was going to stay. Then I heard the talk in the media that those of us who were not teacher trained were the ones who were causing the children not to do well. We were marring the children. That was a term that was being used. It was a hot negotiating year. I think Sherlock Allen was president at the time, the late Sherlock Allen. And of course, if you want to tell me that I can do something, is tell me that I can't do it. So I went off and got teacher training. And by the time I got teacher training and started loving it, started loving the students, I found out that there was a course that I could do at Andrews University through West Indies College at the time to do a master's in secondary school administration. Yes. And so I started doing that just, I think more for the fun of it than anything else. I started doing it. And so I kept getting caught up in it, talking to the students, seeing the kind of influence I could have on them, coming with my information background, that was library. Literature, which is aptly described as a slice of life. It tells you about just about everything that happens in time and space. Then doing the administrative part of it and learning how much more you could do with a school and doing it with a first world country and a first world outlook. So I just fell in love with the whole thing, and I just continued. So even when I went to university to do my library degree, I did schools libraries. Yes. And even though I did my internship at Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, which is a special library.
No, Schomburg in Harlem is a very, very special place. Yes, I spent
absolutely, absolutely. I spent a little more than 3 months there, and that was another watershed moment for me in my life. So if I were to put all of that together, I recognize what is out there. I recognize how much more my students can know and how much more they can do. And because I come with a philosophy that says that there is a solution for every problem. My personal mantra is, leave it a little better than you found it.
Yes.
I try to impart that to my students. So I'm always looking beyond. I'm always looking to see how much more can I have my students do that will set them apart, not just in a competitive way with the other students, but in a competitive way to say, I can be my best self.
I'm happy to hear this. I've always said that the most important preparation for life is a liberal arts education.
Yes, it works.
Because the range that's covered, and in literature, because look, they say library, that's where they bury their lies, If you want to hide something from Black people, put in a book, because so many of us don't read, but clearly that's what you did.
My appreciation for the various revolutions that we've gone through economically and socially starts with literature. Because when I look at the fourth industrial revolution now, moving to the fifth, and some people are talking about the sixth, I think back to Dickens. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times.
Some months ago when I started posting some things on Facebook and talking about the fifth industrial revolution, and then you were on the ball. Not many people have tracked the processes, how the world of work has been transformed, and that we're now in the middle of another transformation. And I was happy to see that you were right on the cutting edge.
Well, again, it comes to reading. It comes down to reading, making myself aware of what is happening in education. When I go to a conference anywhere in the world, I believe that money is well spent, and it must be well spent because I must come back with something new to share with my students. And so I go to the ASCD conference all the time. which is the Association of Supervision and Curriculum Development. And that's for teachers primarily in America, but they cater to international teachers as well. I go to the JTA conferences. I read up stuff online. I take free courses. Right now, I'm learning a lot through my more recent assignment with Education International. And so when I looked at what was happening, I always think about having the students be ready for the world of work. That's a conversation I was hearing a lot, that the students are not ready for the world of work. Yes. I don't believe that students really ought to just leave from school into the world of work per se. At some entry-level jobs, yes, but not in the beginning. I think people who are saying that sometimes are looking more to cheap labor than anything else. Yes. Because you see, I don't believe that we should have those who are practical or technical, and then those who are thinkers over here. I believe that there can be overlaps, and I try to encourage overlaps in my students. So when I looked at what was happening, I was saying to myself, and I'm reading and I'm reading and I'm looking at what it is that is required out there. I didn't think we were doing enough in school. And so that is part of what made me move, with the help of my staff, the technology thrust that we now have at Arden, which is what made us be able to move seamlessly, and yes, seamlessly into online teaching at Arden when school closed on March 12, I think it was.
Question then now, how has COVID-19 impacted you, first of all, personally and professionally?
Personally, I feel validated. I feel absolutely validated, I'm telling you. Because I never really got a lot of support initially for wanting to do all of this. Even parents were pushing back. Students weren't pushing back so much because they wanted the device, but they wanted the device for a different reason. And so I began to say to people, look, we have to have a mind, we have to have a different mindset. We have to shift our minds in the most significant way. First thing is, we need to stop looking at the internet as just another way to entertain ourselves. Yes. About going online and done in Leachim and done in Nadine and done in this one and done in the other one, and how much you can scandal and how much you can laugh and post and how many likes you can get. I started saying to them, as a librarian, I understood that the internet was now the new tool for gathering information, disseminating information. Therefore, it should be one of our main tools of education. Of course, commerce and all the other things, but my thing is education. So I recognize all the other things that it can do and will do, but my thing is education. So I was pushing education. And I'm sure you could appreciate that it was a long haul. It took about 3 years, and COVID is what gave us the full buy-in.
Absolutely. You know that I've been involved with the Go GSAT website and the whole process from early in the game. And I remember telling teachers and administrators and holding up a cell phone to them and tell them that, listen, this is the future of education. I foresee the day when you're going to tell the students, take out your phones, all right, time for the math test, and the test will appear on their screen. They do the test right there, and as soon as they're finished, the results are on the digital board, their results are on their phone, and a copy of their results emailed to their mother same time.
And the students, when we introduced the e-test at Arden, that was the amazing thing. First thing is, they finished long before it was supposed to be at the end of the test. And they were just amazed that the results were instant. On the teacher side, we were talking about instant analysis of the results. Immediately you could say number 10 was the question that was the problem question. Immediately you could look at number 1 and say, well, half of the class didn't get it, so why? And you could look at another one to say, everybody got it. Was it a case that it was too easy? Nah, my students are bright, so it's not too easy.
Yes.
But you know, it was just amazing. But it's a lot of work to front load it, because you plan for online teaching differently. And I think what some parents didn't quite get once we went online, that online doesn't mean the students sitting in front of the computers as long as you would sit in a face-to-face class.
Right, it can be asynchronous. It can be asynchronous, yes.
Sorry?
No, it can be asynchronous. It doesn't have to be lifetime. You do it at the same time
and the whole
teacher,
matter of creating content and uploading content, something like a flipped classroom model where the students can actually get stuff on the front end, come back to class, they're ready with their questions, they would have done exercises, they would have been given their problem-solving activities, problem-based activities for them to work through. It's just a whole different ballgame. But you see, the whole thing, that one of the things that struck me as well initially was how much artificial intelligence was becoming a part of what we do. And my favorite thing was to talk about the Jetsons and all the things that used to happen on the Jetsons that we used to laugh and think was fantasy, and it's now real now.
Yeah?
But can you imagine how much more is coming that we can't fathom right now? So I wanted my students to be a part of that. And so we started slowly, we started training the teachers. I never asked my teachers to do anything without offering them training. Or
did you have to drag the teachers along with you because you were so far into the curve? Did you have to drag them?
Not everybody. Not everybody. There's some people who think I'm going too slowly.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
and you have all types, and you have those who are scared and they're fully on board now, and all types. And Miss Molloy is a wicked person. Why is she asking me to do this? Blah blah blah. But you just stay the course. Some days you feel down and like, why can't everybody see what you're saying? Why can't everybody see what you're doing? But if you are someone who tends to have a vision and who tends to think outside the box, you have to make peace with that.
Yes.
Make peace with that.
Okay. Post-COVID now, meaning that it's here, schools have been closed, and we're trying to find a way to get back into the classroom. What do you see for the medium to long term in terms of education?
I think it would be fair to say that nobody knows. And I understand the concerns of many of our teachers. But one of the things I said to a colleague of mine just about half an hour ago, teachers are resilient people. We shape minds for the future. After the home, then it's us. And we have a responsibility to be strong, to be visionary, yes, to think safe. But we are the ones who are going to have to teach our children coping skills. So we have to be at the forefront with, and when I say teachers, head teacher, deputy head teacher, senior teacher, every teacher.
Yes.
I really don't make much distinction unless it's for the particular purpose. We all have to sit together and decide what it is that is going to make our school safe. What will make Arden safe is not what will make KC safe. It's not what will make Taran safe. It's not what will make Haile Selassie safe. We have to sit, the ministry can give us all the guidelines in the world. We will have to sit together as a staff and look at where do we need to put another hand wash station. How can we divide our classes? How are we going to set our timetables? For example, we have the advantage at Arden, and we're looking at that. I'm on leave, but thank God for an awesome vice principal who is acting, Dr. Jacqueline Pinto. We talk about it all the time because one of the things she always said to me, Ms. Molloy, you're not on any real leave, because you're coming back. Yeah. So you better know what you're coming back to. And I really don't mind, especially since COVID is here and I don't have anything else to do right now. So we have talked about things like, if we have online capacity at the level that we have it at Arden, can we possibly look at dividing our classes in two? Mm-hmm. The larger classes where that would not provide for social distancing inside the class. Can we have one set on the outside, under a gazebo, in the library, in another lab? Do we get some tents? Because most of our students do have devices. So those that have devices, they could be in a lab, they could be on the outside. Those that don't have devices probably could be in a lab. We have interactive boards in the classroom so we can connect and monitor the students where they are. And so we are able to still run a full day school and not have parents go through the uncomfortable machinations of who is going to be first and who is going to be second, who should stay home and who shouldn't stay home. So those are things that we can look at to see how best we can manage in our schools. Where there isn't that kind of technology infrastructure to accommodate it, maybe that's what the government needs to look at doing for those schools. I've always maintained that we should allow the traditional high schools who have a little bit more resources leave them for a while, monitor them, support them, make sure they do what they're supposed to do. But go to the Buff Bay High, go to the Notre Bay High, go to the Yallas High, and upgrade those schools so those schools can do what the other schools are doing. So we can stop talking about the poor relation school and that school. I just hate it.
Yes.
And I come from a position where I spent 5 years teaching at Bishop Gibson High School, 12 years at Buff Bay High School, and now 8 years at Arden, comes August 31. So I understand both systems. I even spent a year in the community college, and I spent a semester lecturing part-time at UA. So there's a lot we can do if we just get the special interests, can I put it that way, out of the way and just deal with education straight. There's an awful lot we can do. So we have to talk about safety, but there are many ways that I think that we can plan and get around it. We probably can have what you call a stretch day. Maybe we can look at how we treat with our sixth formers differently. I don't want my sixth formers to stay home. No, guys, I want you at school. I love you. So there are many, many ways, but I don't think a one size will fit all for any school. This principal, the board, not the board as much, the principal, the staff, they need to sit together. And after they've, worked out a plan, then they can take it to the board. And of course, then the ministry comes in. But we have the solutions right at our fingertips, I believe.
One thing that has been suggested in terms of reopening of schools is that cafeterias are really going to be a source of problem, that because of the closeness and all the students there, and it's best that students eat in their classrooms. What's your view on that?
Our canteen at Arden is operated by the Church of God in Jamaica, who owns the school. So I've already spoken with the vice chairman and the chairman, and we have talked about how we can have outstations. Again, the whole matter of using tents, using windows. Perhaps you set up your patty station on the outside, your cook lunch station on the inside, your snack station over here, because we understand that the better airflow you have is the better for, staying healthy. So we've talked about that. So we're going to be meeting, I think that meeting is coming up next week. We're going to be meeting to do another walkthrough and see how we can do those things. But that's what I think needs to happen in every school. The ministry has given us some guidelines. They've had meetings with us. I hear people say that the ministry is not doing anything. Maybe they're not doing as much as they should do, but I know that they have been having these discussions, and principals are given ideas. Board chairman have been involved too. Nurses, I know they're going to be training nurses and deans. So we're all going to be coming together, and we're going to be looking at what we have, and we will do the best we can for opening of schools. So all the persons who are saying that it can't happen and it shouldn't happen, my message to you would be, I'm scared too. I am scared too, but I'm doing it because the future of Jamaica is in our hands. So get on board with your principal.
Important word to end on, because guess.
I'm sorry.
It's an important note to end on, because there's nobody been here before. We're all making them as we go along, but have the confidence that, listen, it will get done.
It will get done. And I really believe that if we all come together, and I said a while ago that teachers need to get on board with your principals. Principals, if you're not reaching out to your teachers, reach out to them too. Ask them what they're thinking. Get to know what their fears are. Because once you know what people's fears are, then you can address them.
Nadine, Molloy, it has been wonderful talking to you. As you mentioned again at Buff Bay, my youngest cousin, was born right there in Buff Bay, and as I gave you the background, and he went to Buff Bay Primary, and then he went to Titchfield, which is the natural progression, then to the UWI. He's now an anesthesiologist in the United States. So he's in the belly of the beast and dealing with the COVID issues, but it's Buff Bay Primary.
I went to Burnhamwood All Age.
Yeah.
And I passed the entrance for Titchfield, and I put on one ungodly ball in the day. And I told my mother I did not want to go to Titchfield. And so she went up to St. Mary High, and she couldn't get me into St. Mary High. And then she went over to Marymount. And I looked at Marymount, and it was beautiful. And I said, I want to go to this school. I didn't even know that they wore a white uniform at the time. But I said
Yes.
I wanted to go to this school. And the principal came out, the late Bernadette Chung, OSF, Sister Bernadette, she came out and she looked me up and down and she said she would tell us in a few days. And we went back in a few days. And she said, yes, I will take her. And I was like, yes, this is where I wanted to be. And I am really, really, very pleased that I went to Marymount. I think they did well by me, and I hope I'm doing well by them. It was a blessing, et vertute, et veritate, encourage, and influence.
Listen, you have been a wonderful inspiration in education in Jamaica, and the students are blessed just to be in your presence. We give thanks
Thank you so much. And I'm wishing them all the best in the exams. I know that they have prepared. I know they're anxious. They're always anxious. But guess what? Guys, you can do it and you're going to do it.
We need to have a conversation in the future as we get further into this whole process, because I'm sure you'll be helping us to guide the way.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Great talking with you.
You're welcome.